And welcome to tonight's episode of PCP, the Pagan Center Podcast. I'm Dave.
I'm Amber.
I'm Brandon.
I'm Sam.
I'm here.
Alright, and also joining us tonight are...
I'm Maria.
There you go. Alright, so tonight we're going to go over listener feedback from fall of 2011. Tonight is the solstice, so we're right on the beginning of the new season, so we're going to wrap up fall tonight. So we'll get back to this right after these messages. And we're back. So first, I just want to give some kudos to GoogleForVeterans.com. It's a portal that Google Incorporated has put together to help veterans find stuff, help family and friends get more in touch with what their veteran friend has gone through. And it has an interesting thing that you could punch in a person's name. You can see everything that they did. So I punched in Scurv, our resident vet here, and here's what I learned about him. He had his leg cut off in an iron accident in 1899 at age 42. Then he lived in Maine, had a mental breakdown, and started killing people. Then he became a Harvard freshman in 1915. Then he married a movie star in 1931, and was a lieutenant in the Marine Corps. Then he had a wife elected to lead a unit of the American Legion in 1951, and he became leader of the National Coal Council early 1950s. 1956, he was a colonel for the Florida Wing Command, and then he invented techniques to ensure tools and sponges were not left in patients during surgery in 1964. When living in a uranium mining town in Canada. Then he died in 1977. But in 1992, he was allowed to sue Dr. Gupta for emotional distress caused during his child's birth, and was described as 34 years old and armed and dangerous by Arizona newspapers in 1993. He would later murder 2 people and be sentenced to death by 2002. In 2003, he was 22 years old and pled guilty to theft. Then he became a reverend in Maine and told off John Edwards. Then he died again in 2008 at age 42. His father was William Moody. See? All the fun stuff you learn on Google. That's not entirely accurate.
Ironically, a lot of that stuff people will have attributed to me.
See, they're just searching on Google and finding all this random crap.
Wow.
Yeah, so let's get to our listener feedback here. Holy crap, this first one's forever long.
Hold on. I have to go back to the revisiting the Google thing. Half of that stuff, the positive and negative stuff, I could actually see Scurvy doing. No offense. Expletive, you.
Kelly Mace?
Facebook? What?
I love you, Scurvy. Just had a Naria flashback when you said that. Oh, wow.
Hi, Scurvy.
Hey, Naria. Amber's been hanging around Naria too much. She's picked up Maria-isms, and I have thus picked up Maria-isms.
What, did she now tell you she loves you?
Hey!
In that tone. It's not quite I love you, it's I love is you. I'm like, okay, you've been hanging around Maria too much.
I love is you, Brandon.
Exactly. I love is you too, by the way.
Aw.
So, back to subject at hand.
On the subject at hand. Oh, jeez. I don't know. Is me reading this first one that's like a page and a half long going to be a good idea? Me and my math.
I can give it a shot, but no promises.
Okay.
Alright. I love this past episode, and this topic is one of my favorite ones. I've worked with unseen entities every day. Mostly, it's 3 animal spirits who tend to stay with me and help guide me and keep me from making really dumb mistakes, and I've made quite a few. One is a white stallion, one is a tiger, and one is a raven. They are free spirits and tend to wander at times, going to where they feel they're needed most when they aren't with me. Most of the time when I tell people about them, pagan or not, I get the crazy looks like they think I'm trying to seek attention. Funny enough, I'm only crazy to them, and they don't believe me until either the horse, the tiger, or the raven pay them a visit, or all 3. I've had friends call me and tell me that the books keep popping off the bookcase or other explained mischief occurs. The raven, he is quite a mischief maker. They keep seeing horses in their dreams and so forth. You get the idea. I just tell them to admit that they're there and set something up to make them happy. Horses like apples and carrots. Ravens like shiny baubles or puzzles. Tiger is content if you make a chuffing noise and a saucer of milk. She loves kids, so usually only visits with friends with kids. She calls them human cubs. There are a few other experiences that follow the same topic. When I started out, I worked a lot with fae magic, communing with the fae, etc. One day I came home in a really pissed off mood. Something present in the room sensed my mood and reached out to me as if to see why I was upset. Remembering me mentioning making dumb mistakes, this was definitely one of them. I shouted, "Whatever's in my room, get the fuck out." Whatever happened next is something I haven't been able to explain to this day. The posters and other things attached to my wall on the left began to flutter one at a time as if an invisible ball of energy was moving underneath them in a clockwise fashion, working its way around the entire length of the room until it reached the door with a slam, followed by an overwhelming feeling of emptiness, like all the joy in the room has been snuffed out and the air was still. No windows open or fan could have caused that. I think I just pissed off a pixie. Mostly, I have place experiences or find myself followed by spirits from a place, my groupies. But above all, the one that I think of is Salem, Massachusetts related. There is a park there down by Salem University called Forest River Park. Several of my friends either refuse to go there or it creeps them out so badly that they're quick to retreat. I told my husband that the park, and being a shaman, he was curious to go there and see for himself. He got about halfway in and felt the energy of the place crushing down on his shoulders, making it hard for him to move. What is there, you might ask, that has such profound effect spiritually sensitive people? It's an ancient guardian that's been tied to the spot for a very long time, maybe since the beginning, nurturing the trees and the land with a lot of love for living things. The feeling I got from this guardian was when the Native Americans lived in that area, the guardian was happy and they respected him like a brother. When the settlers came, they cut down a lot of his trees, disrespected the land, and ignored him. In the beginning, he hoped the others would return, but they never did. Over the years, he retreated closer and closer to the shore, to the few strands of trees that were left untouched. The park grew up around him, and he has had a long time to hold a grudge, and the hatred he feels for people was without bonds. The park in the recent years has fallen into disrepair, which has made his anger only worse, with graffiti and litter. When I lived there, I tried to spend time with him and try to get him to trust, but the best I could do was get him to tolerate me. I saw his face in the trees twice. When I was there, both times it looked like a hostile, haunting, expressionless face with two hollow eye sockets. Pretty creepy. Anyways, I've ranted long enough. Thanks for another kick-ass episode. Big blessings, Vala.
I just realized they never asked anything.
No, they really didn't.
Not sure about what episode that was, but that must have been an awesome episode!
Cool story.
I do vaguely remember one where Brennan was talking about nature spirits and spirits connected to the land, so maybe it was something like that.
Or it could have been episode 214 for all we know.
Right.
214. Which one was that?
Crazy pink-haired lady?
Oh. Well, in response to the
Oh,
email,
yeah.
I do have to say that we've all gone through some crazy shit, and sometimes it's hard to believe, and we've also come across some people that claim to have gone through some crazy stuff and really haven't. I know we've come into contact with a handful of people that just were playing it up to get attention. So, but also I've known a handful of people that have done some pretty awesome things. So we have we knew a certain dragon slayer back in Clarion that had some great stories. But yeah, there's seems to be always some skepticism within pagan groups as to, are you for real or are you not for real? And I think we've discussed that in a handful of different episodes.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, whenever you have crazy metaphysical experiences, you're always going to come off as crazy to everyone else, and you just gotta learn how to present your information so you don't have an episode 86 on your hands.
This is very true.
Oh, by the way, I did an experiment a while ago. I had to do a presentation for something, so I sat down there, and I turned Audacity on and turned it on record, and I recorded my stupid ass. And you know what? After 3 or 4 times, I almost sounded intelligent.
So there you go. If you played PCP 3 or 4 times, it will sound intelligent.
Well, no, I mean, sometimes it's just on the whole 86 topic. If you have something to present and you're not sure how to present it, or it might sound off the wall, to borrow the words of somebody else, sober second thoughts, and get it by recording your stupid ass. But oh well. I guess that's just proofreading audio.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's like any editing process, except you're doing it with audio.
But that's enough of my irrelevant tangent.
Trying to cut down the diarrhea of the mouth.
Is your ass jealous of all the shit that comes out your mouth?
I actually like that one.
I saw that on Google Plus today. I thought that was awesome.
Wow. I'm stealing that from you. Thanks.
It's alright, I stole it from someone else.
You know, I don't think it's a bad thing that people distrust the fact that metaphysical things happen quite often.
It's good to distrust.
It's not saying distrust everything until there is absolute proof that smacks you upside the head. But if we were to believe everybody and just took it for granted that if they said it, then it was true, we would believe schizophrenics without a second guess, or teenagers looking for attention, or charlatans trying to drag you into a sweat lodge with a plastic tarp as a roof.
Oh wait, that one actually happened.
So I think disbelief is healthy, and it should be a comforting thing to be able to look back and have experiences to where your familiars, your totems, other entities have come to other people and go, oh yeah, by the way, that person's not crazy. Hi, I'm here. Alright, I'm going back to work now. That should be an awesome boost to, I don't know if your confidence as much as it is your sanity. That, yeah, you are experiencing things, and I think that is a fantastic thing to be able to carry with you.
So on the topic of skepticism, we got our next feedback. This one comes from askapagan.com. And it's a skeptical person that has stumbled upon the site, and they're asking, how are Wiccans different from Christians? How are they any different from Christians? For example, I left the Latter-day Saints Church several years ago.
Oh, yeah.
I left
Close my door, please.
I left because I didn't believe in a deity who suffered human weaknesses such as pride or vanity, or one who needed my praise, worship, and adoration. I tried Wicca on for size, but ultimately didn't adopt it because it felt like it wasn't doing anything except substituting one anthropomorphic deity for two anthropomorphic deities, or three deities for one deity, depending on how you count them. Who still had the same basic functions. I'm your God, you pray to me, or do good things for me, and I agree to help you, otherwise play some important role in your life. Outside of cosmetic differences, how do Wiccans believe they are any different from Christians? And that's a really good point to bring up, especially since, despite what many Wiccans will say, Wicca is partially based off of Christianity. And Gerald Gardner himself would punch you in the face for saying that, but fuck him, he's dead. And, if you're looking to go, deism versus atheism, Wicca is certainly not an atheistic religion. But I think a lot of it has to do with a different relationship with deity. This isn't so much a deity demanding that you do things. And Wiccans are notorious for this. Wiccans feel like they have the upper hand in the relationship between themselves and deity, and they all treat the deities however they damn well please. This pisses off a lot of other pagans. We understand this. Well, I understand this, not most Wiccans. And that's where, and sometimes and this is a huge debate inside of Wicca, is, are certain groups of Wiccans too Christianized? The one thing that a lot of Wiccans have in common is that they all come from Christian backgrounds. And so this Christian baggage winds up getting transferred into Wicca. And that's why you get this single deity thing going on sometimes, or praying to God, or, still saying things like, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's, until you break apart from that, you're still kind of carrying that Christian baggage, and honestly, I don't know. It does take a few years to shed the baggage, and to say that someone isn't Wiccan during that time would encourage them to keep the baggage. So you just gotta, push against them a lot, and kind of show them the more pagan ways of doing things, and hopefully they drop their baggage somewhere along the way. Until then, they'll, usually wind up with a lot of these spiritually immature Wiccans that almost identify themselves by means of contrasting themselves against Christians, and that's not exactly healthy anyway.
There's a lot of different types of pagans. Wicca is just one very small part. They just happen to be one of the loudest.
Yes. And, and even then you still have a lot of different types of Wiccans. That's a whole different conversation, but yeah. I think this conversation that the writer of this actually was just kind of focusing on Wicca specifically. And a lot of Wiccans don't really, I won't say all Wiccans, but a lot of Wiccans definitely see what they worship to be damn near identical to what the Christians worship. Especially those that are more along the Unitarian lines and Universalist lines. To them, there's not much of a difference between deity and deity. And they boil the concept down to pure deity that is not of a humanoid form. And once they get to that point, they really just stop seeing the differences between who everybody is worshipping. But then again, you get into oversimplifications of every deity is just an aspect of that deity, or deities don't exist, they're just mind constructs, or deities just don't exist, and that's where things go a little bit too crazy.
Oh, crazy. Okay. Wow, there's a lot of talking going on here, so I'll ramble a little bit.
Okay.
Honestly, I'm reading this stuff, and it still looks like somebody's suffering from Christian hangover. Not sure where they're at now, but hey. I say this much, and this is my view when it comes to anything faith-based. It's a relationship, and you might not be able to control the deity. Somebody can think they can, but you should be able to take care of your end of things. And that being said, if you got a lot of hate and discontent in your heart from where you were, as Dave said earlier, do what you got to do. Take care of yourself. I mean, hey, I'm not saying just completely ignore it. I mean, if you went through 10 years of this isn't right for me, and then you left it, and you're in a little bit of turmoil, hey, that's the moment you're in. Live it for what it's worth. Learn your lessons. Move on with life. Oh, somebody else start rambling now.
Practices are different.
True.
Well, at least when you think our practices are different. I mean, like the old saying goes, you put a pagan ritual on one side of the screen, you do a split screen, you put a Catholic ritual on the other. You're not going to be able to tell the difference if everybody's on mute. Maybe the naked woman could give it away, but...
Oh, maybe. I have a hard time seeing it as carrying around too much Christian baggage to the question, though. I think it's just an honest observation from somebody who's going through a transition. No, I don't... There's not a lot of... I don't read into a lot of anger here or anything like that. It just seems like a lot of observation, and I think a lot of the things Dave went into, you know, that there is a different mentality going into it, but there's also the Christian base. I think that's all that he's picking up on, or she's picking up on.
Well, I mean, at the same time, their observations are mostly accurate, so there's not really a way for me to say, no, you're wrong. They really are different. No, that's
right.
Not really how it works.
Well, I know I've said this on a lot earlier episodes, but Christianity, a lot of the symbolism and practices were pulled from ancient pagan practices and symbolism, and then Wicca was sort of trying to take those practices back, and so you have almost a double mirror image going on there, each mirror being slightly warped, you know, to what they want to do with it. So, in truth, it, as Dave said, it makes a lot of sense that there's a lot of similarities there. I mean, not just the fact that Wicca has taken a lot of stuff from pagan or from Christianity, or I think I said that right.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Okay. But Christianity itself took a lot of different aspects of paganism from different cultures to basically easily incorporate pagan or Christianity into pagan cultures and make it more acceptable to change people's beliefs. So you sort of have that double edge there.
Yeah, what most contemporary people think of as paganism, those who have not thoroughly studied paganism, which is unfortunately most pagans, generally can be traced back to being similar to the practices of, well, I personally refer to it as British indigenous religion because referring to it as witchcraft is just damn too ambiguous. So I usually just call it British indigenous religion because that is also where Wicca traces a lot of its origins to. I mean, if you were to take a pie chart, I'd say more than a third of that is just whatever survived of old witchcraft, and the rest is just filled in with other religious stuff from Judaism, Christianity, Hinduism, so forth. So, yeah, I kind of agree with Brandon there. You're getting everything, split apart and reassembled and then reassembled again through just pure culture and socialization. Yeah, things are going to kind of look like Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if part of the baggage that this person has, and the attitude that they seem to be taking with, how do you think you're any different, is maybe they're just trying to make the transition too fast. I remember, I came.
It's like
and they came from one, and then they seem to jump right into another. And I mean, I know when I converted away from Catholicism, I had like 6 months of just trying to get used to the fact that I didn't believe what I used to believe anymore. And it seems like they feel like they need to have something, and then maybe they just didn't take that time to discover. And so all they're seeing is everything that they were uncomfortable with.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder if we or if we tone down our transition periods. Those of us who have transitioned maybe a year ago or 2 years ago have it fresh in their mind, but those of us who have been pagan for years kind of go, oh, well, duh. We've known this for a while. It shouldn't be that hard to understand.
But it's a new shiny object. It has to be different. Well, I mean, one thing that I will say, and this is something a lot of pagans have experienced, and not just me, is if, especially in Wicca, if you're following that path according to what you should be doing, minus the whole freaking out of Christians thing, a lot of Christians that really adhere to the Bible and take the words of Jesus seriously will think of you as a good Christian. And I think the fact that there is that similarity and that overlap kind of speaks a lot to, well, there's going to be a lot of overlap in a lot of areas, too. Yes, we don't worship the whole Jesus thing, but as far as morality and ethics go, a lot of it is there. I mean, one thing I like to point out is the phrase Good Samaritan that comes out of the Bible actually comes out of, supposedly Jesus' mouth, and he was referring to pagans in that statement as being more adherent to what that particular religion said than the people that were claiming to practice that religion.
Oh, religious studies, how much you learn from them.
When it comes to pagans and Christians, pagans and Wiccans in general, I've got an observation. Why is it almost every other Wiccan I meet used to be Catholic, and they understand the Bible better than most of the Christians I know?
That's usually the reason they stop being Catholic.
That's what I did.
Catholic, you're told you're not supposed to understand the Bible for yourself. You're supposed to let the priest understand it for you. So, by the time that you learn on your own, which they have all these resources, by the time you're older, you start researching and going, oh, wait a minute! This is not the way!
And that, when you Catholic, anything that's metaphysical, it's beaten into your head that is all evil, that is the work of Satan, do not do that. So they're like, well, screw this, I'm going to go somewhere where it's accepted. Oh, look, Wicca! It's like the first step on the road to paganism.
Which goes back to, normally Wiccans are one of the loudest groups, so they're the easiest to find.
Yeah.
So Wicca's kind of like marijuana.
Yeah, it's the gateway drug. We've established this.
Yep.
I think we had.
I figured I'd give some hate group Christian or whoever is listening to this a good audio clip. You're welcome.
Just as a random side note, which, knowing my luck, I've already stated this before, that the Christian symbol of the cross is actually a pagan symbol, and the elongated bottom was to basically trap the soul into the ground so it could not rise again. So depending on which side of the equilateral cross was all four directions being equal, sky, east, west, south, or ground. The equilateral cross is one of the oldest pagan symbols, and they just sort of stole it and said, "Yay, it's a Christian symbol." and most of them never realize it.
Yeah, and resurrection is a very pagan thing anyway. I mean, we got lots of people that do that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, a lot of even though they hear all of these stories over and over and over and over and over again, sort of like they get brainwashed into thinking that this stuff's all Christian and forget that the Romans that crucified him were pagan.
Remember the reason for the season, Mithras? What's the sun got to have anything to do with this? Alright, so this comes from witcheschat.com. Person writes, I'm on an eclectic path in Wicca and just had my dedication. This coming Samhain will be my first Sabbath since I was dedicated. I'm curious if anyone on PCP would had any advice on things I should incorporate into my ritual if I perform one.
Well, for starters, I'd like to take the lead on this, even though I'm not quite a Wiccan, but I'm going to introduce you to Pagan Standard Time. Now, this is an ideal example. Okay, so for whatever you're planning, make sure you plan it for more than a year in advance. Because you wrote us for advice for something that's upcoming Samhain, and that's like, what, 2 months ago?
3, maybe.
So, yeah. But, now that I'm done with my little bit of assholery, I'm going to turn this over to a real Wiccan.
Okay. So.
Wait, do we have any real Wiccans here?
Hey, I'm Left-Hand Path Wiccan. That counts.
Scurvy.
So Samhain. I mean, okay, basic concepts, basic common rituals of Samhain. Dumb supper, which is you prepare a meal and you have a place set for everyone that, there's different ways of implementing this, actually. There's a place set for, well, obviously everyone who's alive who's participating in this, as well as one for each person that has died during either the past year or ever. The more traditional and thing that's viewed as more correct in Wiccan circles is the past year. But if you're kind of lacking on dead people, which is a good thing, some people will do it for people that they remember, revere, or just forever, lost throughout their lives. So that's one thing. Another thing to keep in mind is that the basic solemn thing of Samhain is very parallels to Catholicism here, very similar to the Catholics. I forget what they call November 1st, Day of the Dead, whatever they call it. Where you're mourning those who have passed throughout the past year. So the two are very similar, except that the Catholic All Souls Day. Thank you, Sam. I knew you were a Sunday school teacher, and you would know that. So the thing is, the Catholic stuff is more like sit down in church and do the whole mourning and weeping and remembrance thing, whereas Wicca in traditional Wiccan fashion is very much a act of physically doing something, and even if it's just a lot of psychodrama. So that's just something to keep in mind with Wicca. And yes, you can do all your standard Sabbath stuff of having circle and casting circle, having people doing some prayers, whatever, evoking deities, whatever suits your boat. But I will say that Samhain is not supposed to be a happy, fun Halloween party. It's supposed to be a solemn remembrance. If you have an ancestor altar, it might be a good time of the day/year to go ahead and do something special for your ancestor altar. This is a time, and probably the only thing I can think of in Wiccan practice overall, where we stop and actually take a second to acknowledge our ancestors in Wicca. At least according to official Wiccan practice, my eclectic practices aside. But yes, this is a day for remembering the dead. I think it's better to think of it as their day rather than a day of yours. A lot of the Sabbaths tend to be about us, and I think Samhain is better to think of that as you are spending your time and your energy towards someone else, and usually that someone else is no longer with us, or damn near close to no longer being with us. So I think as long as you keep those basic guidelines in mind, you'll be able to assemble something particularly cool and effective, and at the same time be very solemn and official about it. I think now we can finally get off all the wicked questions.
Yay!
So this next one is from AskAPagan.com. I love AskAPagan because these people tend to really go into detail as what they're saying. So, Emily writes, well, let me start off by saying, hi, my name is Emily. I'm a student who's very interested in all religions. I'm especially interested in the pagan way of life. I've researched a bunch and have liked very much what I found. But there's one thing that's still unanswered for me. It's a personal matter that's always been of some interest, but the thing is that I can't find a clue as to what it might be, no matter what or where I look. Ever since I was younger, I've had experiences with the wind. I've always called him brother, though he's never been in the familial sense. He's always been more of a teacher and encourager. He's always been near with a kind word or a helping hand, and whenever I'm outside, I call to him. I can feel him snaking through the trees or running through the tall grass. Whenever I feel the wind against my cheek, I know he's closer to me than I could guess. And I'm confronted by his being there in a way that is so spiritual it's nearly embarrassing. Now, the rather interesting part of this whole thing, please stay with me, I swear I'm not crazy. It seems to be the theme of the night, people not being crazy. Most recently, as I sleep, he come to me as a lover. I never see his face, but in my dreams I can feel him very distinctly. Not just the physical form he manifests, but the spirit I've known all along. Not to say that the physical is anything lacking. I've been able to feel his body and know him immediately, even though his body isn't so much a body as much as it is an implication of form, something solid and shifting like sand or cloth. But I digress. Let's do it this way. The point is, in these dreams that are more real to me than waking life sometimes, it seems, he lays with me and treats me and talks to me as a lover would. The same presence I feel in the wind is there beside me, though I'm never allowed to see his face. I would recognize him anywhere. I know how this sounds, and I know the only person I've gotten up the courage to speak about this with is... There, restart this paragraph. I know how this sounds, and I know the only reason I've gotten up the courage to speak about this is because I don't have anyone to look in the eyes while doing it, but each time I feel him or hear him near, the experience is so very real I can't ignore it. Really, this wouldn't worry me at all if it weren't for the fact that I'm scared this experience might be the product of an artist's overactive imagination, or perhaps a bit too much time to myself. Or perhaps a bit too much time by herself, but I am, so it does. I'm a rational person, usually, but there's something unavoidably preternatural about this, and I'm sincerely hoping someone can offer a suggestion as to what I'm experiencing might be, other than insanity, and how I might learn more about this. I love the word preternatural. I first encountered that word with this feedback, and I'll have to use it more often.
Yay, vocabulary increase. Well, the age-old saying goes that if you're questioning your sanity and really going into wondering if this is a product of insanity, usually you're alright. A lot of cultures do go into saying that it is possible to have a relationship either with deities, with elementals, with spirits, with other things. From what I understand, it's not exactly the most common thing. Usually where you want to start with something like that is starting to look where your pantheon is. And go from there. Look under air spirits, air deities. Like in Egyptian, you have Shu, you have Tefnut, you have a couple others that are all dealing with the weather, dealing with wind. So going into that, you can read about different types of different ways that different cultures looked at relationships and how they had them. You know, in Europe you have a lot more of the elementals and a lot more of the fae, a lot more of the spirits where they'll go into, yes, it's possible and this is what to look for. In Voodoo you have wives of the Loa, where you have a spirit that claims you and that's that. It's not unheard of. It's just not exactly common. But that's a start, and if something sticks out and sounds really familiar or feels right, especially if you have a connection with this thing or being, if the connection is strong enough, if you start reading something and something really sticks out, then you know you have a point of interest to continue your research. If it continues after the first time you read about it, you know it's something more than just fantasy. That's my 2 cents for a beginning.
One thing that I see as a common theme here is love and loving relationship, starting as a father loves a child and basically growing up to be as a lover loves their lover. And keep in mind, you're viewing things through a human frame set, a human context. And things that are not human tend to, well, sometimes things don't translate right. So, this might be something that loves you, but, you know, keep in mind, this love has gone from a, you know, father-daughter protection kind of love to a husband-wife sexual kind of protection love. And to be honest, this might just be love. It might not have changed from their perspective, but your viewpoint has changed. You have grown up to be a sexual being, and thus the whole concept of love is now being viewed as a more sexual thing, and thus also a more age-appropriate thing. Keep in mind, sexual thing will not be age-appropriate for a child, but a father-daughter thing would be age-appropriate for a child. But as a teenager or an adult, a father-daughter kind of love kind of fades out of being age-appropriate. So, hence the switch over to a different kind of love. As for research, again, doing research is a good thing. I did nothing really on research other than what I ever said, actually.
It's kind of one of those things that it's hard to say. Because it all depends on energy exchange. Mm. So, I don't think just by reading something we could say, yes! This is exactly what it is!
It's Bob up in the north. He wants his AC turned off.
Right? But I think just in the way you put it, that we can say that there's more than likely something rather than insanity.
Or maybe he's just really elaborate insanity. What the hell do we know? We're not psychologists.
This is true. Don't take our opinions as expert. What did Charles and Michael say? Can you function? Do you have other friends? Yes. If so, then I wouldn't worry about it being too bad.
So, Miyaka Lee writes us on askapagan.com. I was wondering, when it comes to personal patron/matron deities, how do you honor/worship them? Do you research and look up how they've been honored or associated, or association they've been given in the past, or do you kind of feel for what's right for you and them, or a combination of the both?
You're assuming we worship.
I worship. I don't have patron or matron deities.
I'll restate some I've said before. Usually it's better just to ask them what they want.
Yeah.
Sounds like a plan. I mean, I know some people that do this actually do research and look it up so that they don't, again, if you got a Native American on your doorstep, you don't give him alcohol. where some deities will kick your ass if you don't give them alcohol. I think that was actually stated on New Age Witchery, that show. There you go. They actually have a whole show on this kind of thing, so...
Nice.
So you asked the wrong people, sorry. But we referred you to people who know this shit.
I guess maybe I'm the odd one out, that I'm a big researcher. Like, I obsessively research. I don't know. I feel like it's a good way to show that you give a shit.
I think it's a good place to start. But,
it's not the be-all end-all, but...
Yeah, especially, things change with time, or humans get things wrong, or so forth.
Yeah, but I mean, it was, like, dealing with the deity I work with, it was really good to like, read up on the progression of her. Like, I was lucky that I found it really normal, easily accessible. It wasn't some obscure, only found in the deep African Congo, worshipped by 12 people kind of deity, because that has to blow. But the thing that I've always found with research, no matter if it's specific deity or, dealing with other stuff, is it's good, and I definitely do it a lot, but I've almost found, like, the more that you learn, the less that you know. And book knowledge a lot of times can cloud your intuition. And it sucks, because I've run into that problem where, before I became pagan, I was doing a lot of pagan stuff, a lot of energy work stuff, and then I became pagan and, started buying every Llewellyn publication possible, because I was 12, and that's the appropriate age to buy Llewellyn, by the way. But then, like, once I started reading stuff, in the back of my mind, I'd be like, all right, I'm going to do this. I've done this 1,000 times, but no, I'm doing it wrong. And it fucks with you. So it's definitely a hard thing to find balance with, I think. I think a lot of it may come from the fact that there's the assumption that if people have written something, it means that they know what they're doing. And that's not exactly the case. So, I do agree that research is important. It may increase your confidence that if you've been working with Bast and you've always left out cream and honey, and then when you research her, you learn that her worshippers or her priestesses would work with or left out cream and honey, be like, oh, I've been doing this right. They did actually do this. Awesome. And it can really give you a bit of confidence in that you're working in the right direction, and that's awesome. But then there are quite a number of writings where, like, let's take Isis. Oh, Isis is wonderful, and she loves rose quartz and, unicorns and rainbows, and you're going, I know. I don't think so. But is that right? I mean, I have only been doing this for a little bit of time, and it really does start to affect what you do. But I think some of it can come down to looking at results. Do you find comfort in what you're doing? Do you have experiences to where you can look back? We had the feedback earlier where they're talking about Raven and how somebody wouldn't believe them, and then something would play with the books on their friend's shelf because, haha, I'm Raven, look what I can do. Are there experiences like that you can look at and go, whatever this book says, this is what I'm experiencing and nothing can change that. Deities aren't as strict as people sometimes. So it's very possible, especially when you're looking at something like Egyptian, Greek, Roman, times changed. Everything changed. So it's quite possible that instead of requiring the sacrifice of an alligator, a deity is quite okay if you just leave out a glass of wine.
And also what you can offer changes over time. I mean, Anubis seems to like Burger King.
Only for one person I've known. So I do get him. I have tried to get him to do stand-up.
Well,
and it's work.
just because I feel like making a smart aleck remark, maybe it's not so much that they like Burger King. Maybe it's they'd rather Burger King over anything you'd cook.
Oh! That's what, yeah, that'll be accurate.
I'm sorry.
I never quite looked at it that way before, but that makes sense. Watch this be an episode. Actually, I'll be so screwed.
You know, Anubis usually is the master of subtlety.
Dave, I'm gonna teach you how you learn how to cook. Okay, what you do is you start cooking for your coworkers.
You give them food poisoning. You cost the government $250,000, and you try again.
I've never deliberately given anybody food poisoning, and with one exception, never accidentally.
Well, I mean, again, if you're learning how to cook, how can you be deliberately harming other people?
But mostly when it comes to cooking, a lot of it comes down to skill. I mean, it's easy to make food edible. The art comes into making you want to eat it. And the downside is it normally also requires significant investment.
Yes.
Time more than money.
And a mindset that cooking is a good thing. The investment of time is useful. And that you're not going to get other people to do it for you.
Well, the reason why I say bring it into the workplace is people, especially at work, always love free food.
Yes.
And what you're looking for to see if people go back for seconds.
You'll start to learn that if they avoid your food, maybe it's not good.
Well, no, I mean, the deal is if you actually get a compliment there, you'll find out what you're doing right. Not so much what you're doing wrong, but you'll find out what you're doing right, and that's still pretty useful.
So this week on PCP, we learned that if gods accept fast food offerings, your cooking sucks.
Poor Anubis.
He's such a sweetie.
He is. He always gets the oddballs.
He asked me things politely. So moving on to down Crazy Street here. Jim Ron writes us on AskAPagan.com. I'm a man who worked for Lilith quite a while, but still I can view her. Is it possible because she's a living goddess? But my understanding, Lilithians hate Lucifer. I just dreamt her once with a voice beside me, but I can't remember what she said. How can I remember the message? How to know if this is Lilith? Thanks. Okay, I'm going to ignore that middle part there that made no sense about Lucifer. Not quite sure how that's relevant to the conversation. Deities.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that doesn't understand.
Deities, I don't know. If they're nobody's murdered them, they tend to stay around. I think that's a good way to put it. And how to remember the message? Good luck with that one. You can meditate on it. There's actually some visualization techniques you can use to try to relive that event. But honestly, this is going to be kind of like hypnosis here. You might wind up making up something more than actually figuring out what the message was.
Here's an idea. put together a ritual. Say, I am a dumbass and I didn't hear what you said. Please hold my hand.
Star 69, redial.
By the way, if you're taking ritual advice from me,
Don't.
just use it as a very, very general guideline. Do not do it explicitly, okay?
Keep in mind, the last time Scurvy was in Ritual, Osama bin Laden died.
Scurvy is a tactical strike in ritual.
Hey, it was a ritual to support our troops. I say that was one hell of a way to support our troops.
Hmm.
I'm going to skip to the next one, hoping that person shows up at some point. Alright, so the next one's from Nicholas in Oregon. He emails us at pcp@pagancenterpodcast.com. Hello, PCP crew. I've been listening to your show for a while now, and I thought I would give some feedback as to how great I think the show is. I listen to the show at work, and it helps me pass the hours of the day by without going completely insane. I'm a male awake and living in Portland, Oregon, on a completely solitary path. So I know there are not very many shamanic witches around here. Anyway, I'm enjoying the show a lot, and I really like the opinions and insight you express in your topics. I would also like to tell Scurvy that I highly enjoy his opinions and attitude, often agreeing a lot that he has to say. I would also like to see a lot more Pagan Men's podcasts to tell Barrett with the utmost respect to hurry it up with those episodes. I do not mind if this email is read or not. Do with it as you will. Thanks and blessed be. Yes, I did talk to Barrett. He's been incredibly busy this year. He's, what is he? He's like a journeyman or something. I forget what he's doing. But he's starting a new career path, and he's been really, 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 really busy. Not to mention the fact that he's got to plan a wedding. So,
Yes.
Shamanic Wicca, I will say that Circle Sanctuary, I think that if it's not the official designation as far as tradition, it pretty damn where is their de facto tradition. Try to see if we got some people in Circle Sanctuary nearby. Portland has a crap ton of pagans, so you're sure to have a Circle Sanctuary person nearby. A lot of them do the whole Shamanic Wicca thing. Yep. And Scurv, you have a fan.
That poor bastard. Thank you for the, yeah, I don't handle positive feedback very well. Yeah. I need to work on that.
Thank you for letting me break Scurvy's mind tonight. That's greatly appreciated, Nicholas. Thank you.
Okay, now we officially need to get him on the show.
Alright, so this next one comes to us via email, pcp@pagancenterpodcast.com. Hello, PCP crew! Let me get down to it. Have any of you ever heard any instances of a deity visiting the physical/mortal plane? Say you're walking through the woods, and lo and behold, from behind a tree comes the walking All-Father Odin, giving you advice or asking something of you. I don't know. But I was just curious if this could ever happen, like it does in some mythological stories. I'm also looking for spells, incantations, prayers, and the like that are in their native languages, preferably Old Celtic, Old Norse, based stuff. Any help on this front will be great. Thanks and blessed be. Okay, let's go from the top here. Deities on the physical/mortal plane. One thing I will say is that hallucinations can feel incredibly real. Don't count that option out. You know, if you look at a lot of the mythical stories, especially as they are portrayed in a more contemporary context, you will see a person interacting with a deity, feeling them, touching them, as if they're an actual person, but nobody else can see. Hallucinations can have that effect. Also, if other people can see it, don't count out metaphysical stuff still going on, like really strong astral projection that kind of seeps into the visual, and always like the people trying to discredit UFOs have proven. Don't forget mass hallucination; it can happen. So don't take the mortal physical plane presence for what it's worth, because, again, you're observing through your senses, and your senses can be manipulated. Yeah, and we're not talking otherkin or incarnations here. We're talking actual deity coming down in the physical to say hi. As far as if anybody's experienced this, has anybody here heard of that happening? Because I sure
Yep.
haven't. Go, Naria.
I shared a couch with Oanari once. Let's see, and Anubis. Watch TV, actually. Weird story.
You
And I
have the
picked up at
strangest
school.
of experiences. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I got picked up at school once by Oanari. That was fun.
Do I count?
No.
Screw you, Dave. You didn't have to think about that one. Ooh, I could be wicked and say we're all embodiments of the goddess, so technically we're all walking deities?
I just said we're not counting incarnations and or otherkin.
That's not an incarnation. I don't know.
As for spells, incantation, prayers, and the like in their native languages, preferably Old Celtic and Old Norse, one thing I will highlight here is that both are European. Which is great, because if you actually go to Europe, you might actually just stumble on these things by accident. Because a lot of the old pagan practices are very much alive and kicking up and going on over in Europe. So, and the thing is, they don't call it pagan, it just is what they do. So if you're trying to look up pagan stuff, that's not exactly the right phrase to use. You might just want to look for, Celtic. It depends on what part of the old Celtic sphere of influence you want to look at into. If you're looking for Spanish, or if you're looking for Irish, or French, or whatever. Look that up and just be like French prayer or Spanish prayer, and you might have a better hit on that, especially if you use something like Google.ie, which is Google for Ireland, or Google.no for Norway. Again, it's just knowing the right search phrases to use. I mean, what we refer to here is in the United States and North America as a whole as pagan. Europeans just refer to it as, well, that's just how we do things. So that might be why you're having a hard time on that. Now, I'm not saying that it might be it'll be easier to find Old Norse and Old Celtic. I mean, you have to start with current and work your way back, presumably. I'm not sure of the experience of doing this stuff, but that's just the way I would go about doing this. Or, the easier way, try to make a pagan friend over in Europe. They might have a much easier time of getting this stuff than you. Because, again, I would say, like, in North America, we've gotten really spoiled with internet connectivity. We're just permanently connected to the internet, it seems. And over in Europe, they don't have that intimacy with the internet. A lot of their stuff is still on printed plant fiber stuff. That weird technology from the last century. They have these huge buildings called libraries, and gotta use like a card catalog. It's like, dude, have you guys ever heard of Google? Anyway, so yeah, when you're looking for all stuff, you're probably going to have to look at all the technologies, like plant fibers and, hell, I don't know, you might need to look at stones or something. Oh, fuck China now.
Oh, you mean like us taking a road trip out to, where the hell was that in Pennsylvania, and me going to a bookstore and buying 2 books?
Yeah.
They were old books, too.
That was
awesome.
New Hope. That's going to be, that's Pagan Road Trip 3, coming out after I finish up Pagan Road Trip 2.
Yes, this is where Dave learned where the gas pedal was.
Oh, fuck you.
Oh, wait a minute. No, he didn't. God, I'd love to see Dave in the car.
And you're the one I always say, Dave, I'm not sure if you could drive the RV. Yeah, I don't like people with a lead foot driving the RV.
Whole time I'm thinking, it's like, wow, Dave, this is PA. I mean, that speed limit sign's a suggestion. It's a guideline. It's to be respected, not maybe explicitly obeyed when it says 5 miles an hour. No, Dave, that one's for trucks. We're not a truck. Although I do have to admit this much, though, I've never seen a warning sign to advise people that a road was open.
I know, I was going to bring that up. It was like, warning, road open, next 20 miles. What?
Huh?
What kind of sign is that? I'm sorry, the road is open.
But you do realize I actually did look up in the air just to make sure. Like, open? The fuck? Huh? Oh. That's a strange sign. I was wondering if it actually foretold of something interesting. Oh well. Yet again, we locked the camera in the trunk.
Hey, we didn't make that same mistake on the way back. Besides, I'm working on a brand new rig for recording video in motion.
Ooh.
Started testing it today. I haven't looked at the results yet, but yeah. It's basically dash cam, police dash cam software for the Android. So I have a GPS mount and a camera, phone, and yeah.
All sorts of fancy stuff.
Alright, so the last one we have left here is, I don't want to call her Lupa. We got evil Lupa. Let's call her Lupa would win.
That works for me.
We won't confuse that at all. So Lupa would win actually is our first person to submit feedback to us over YouTube. Which unfortunately makes it very difficult to incorporate on the live show. But we could post just the audio in here. I'm trying to remember what the hell she said though. Oh, it was the Power of Names and Otherkin episode where we didn't talk about Otherkin, and that's why she was a little bit pissy.
Yeah, she wanted to know, did we think that she got the impression that people choose their names, and was that how we felt? And that did we feel that Otherkin were more likely to have magical names, and she went into a little bit about true names being different from magical names. What are our thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I still kind of go into the whole multiple tiers thing, that there's a true name and then there's a magical name / craft name / whatever you want to call it. And you got this whole sandwich of names going on here. And I think a magical / craft name is chosen and or provided by a deity of your choice. But a true name is your permanent record, and thus is not easily edited.
Yeah. I've also seen multiple true names, though.
Yes, it does happen.
So, and that's my main problem with names, is that I'll agree with Dave and say that magical names are usually chosen by either or chosen or given, we'll say that. But there's not it's set, this is who you are for all your lives, blah, blah, blah. I guess Otherkin are more likely to have, or I feel that Otherkin are more likely to have some type of name, but most of the Otherkin that I've met seem to try to go by a true name rather than a magical name. And they really don't talk about it much. Because, of course, well, it's a true name, and most of them consider it like an identity signature.
I will say I think Otherkin in general are just more likely to use any kind of pseudonym because most realize how incredibly crazy that entire concept sounds to most people, yet they still need a way to refer to each other in person where that does not compromise their legal identity.
Yeah. I know one point we disagreed on is that I've always felt, and I know that I tend to work a little bit non-conventionally, I guess, that I don't see really names as being all that powerful, because even a true name, if you can grab the person's energy signature, then what the hell do you need the name for?
Yeah.
but apparently from the people I talk to, that's not all that common for people to be able to do that, so maybe I'm just weird.
Yeah, and then, questions asked in the chat room, can a true name be nonverbal? And I think in that scenario, it is more you being familiar with a person's energy signature and using that in the place of a name since it has the same effect.
Because names kind of designate verbal. That's the other thing, is names, no matter how particular they are, still refer to only one facet of an entity. Whether it's a physical incarnation, whether it's a very large deity, and it's what the human mind can understand of it, it simplifies it down to a language base. Which to me kind of cuts off part of what you're trying to reach.
Now, I will say that, again, as far as simplification goes, yes, you can oversimplify, but at the same time, not all names might be pronounceable. I think there's a difference between unpronounceable and nonverbal.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that. Like, what if, you're dealing with a non-human or, something outside of what our vocal cords can produce? Okay.
And the point was brought up, energy signatures can be masked and altered, and you also know, if you really have enough skill, you can see through the masks and sort through and figure out what the actual energy signature is. It's just a lot harder with some people.
To me, it's always been kind of a fun, kind of like a logic puzzle kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Where if I meet somebody where I know that that's not their energy signature, it's, ew! And who are you pretending to be? This is so adorable. And it becomes like a fun game. Apparently that doesn't go over well.
Take out this piece of the onion. Oh, okay, that one's supposed to be there. Put it back. Patch it up. Take out this piece of the onion. Okay, that one's not supposed to be there. Toss it out.
What are you doing touching my onion? I swear, I was just looking at it.
I was cleaning it.
Yeah. People get really upset when you clean their onions.
I heard sometimes people get really happy if you clean their onions.
No, I think that's cleaning pearls.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
I wish she was here. Oh well. Another time, maybe.
Who?
The Lupa, without fail.
Oh, yeah. Lupa would win. Yeah. We could always do, YouTube ping pong with her.
This is true.
Trying to decide what I want to say. Well, knowing my names, I could go back, way back, and we could bring up Ari. That would be a fun one.
Ari's a popular name down here in Texas.
I don't doubt it.
I was just wondering, why aren't we getting hate mail?
Because they sent us all the hate mail they had in their blood for episode 214. Don't you remember that, Jama?
Speaking of which, who's crazy this week? Is that you or me?
I don't know.
Yes?
I mean,
I'll go with Naria's answer.
Okay, but I mean, Maria's going to have to get in on this rotation. I mean, he is extra special qualified for it.
Yeah, but he doesn't really involve himself with the rest of the people that are claiming crazies.
You know what's fun? When I start commenting on Google Plus, hey, you need to get away from the drama sites, and they're like, yeah, we already did that. I listen to your show. Don't worry.
That's awesome.
It's like PCP needs to come up with like its own rating system. Like have like a browser plugin that like as soon as you go to pathos.com, it's like warning, drama ahead. Your blood pressure will go up 30% if you click continue.
We need our own Firefox plugin.
Yeah.
Oh, Dave, you're like Uber Computer. Make custom web browser for pagans.
What the hell would a custom web browser be? All I would do is put a theme up, you know, Firefox Wiccans where all the icons are naked women.
Okay, it's a good start. Keep going.
No, we didn't say a Gerald Gardner web browser.
No, we can make a version of naked guys too. You know, be gender equal. Have like the loading bar be some guy getting erect or something.
Nice.
Just make sure you put a drama meter on certain sites and all that stuff, and we can sort of like do something for real time.
You ever seen like the website you go to when you visit a bad porn site? It's like, warning, spyware has been detected on this website. Yeah, you get in Google Chrome or Firefox. It'll be one of those, but except for it being red, it'll be purple and be like, warning, excessive drama has been detected on this website.
Can we make it explode glitter?
Oh, fuck yeah.
So instead of you just having the warning sign, it just explodes glitter fireworks to where you can't read anything? And they'll be so entranced for the glitter they'll forget they went to the site anyway.
Yes. So yeah, if you want a pagan web browser, give us some ideas, because this concept needs to be developed and filled out some more. That's PCP at pagancenteredpodcast.com.
Dave,
Yes, Neria.
are you trying to bring about the PCP effect again?
Yes.
Okay.
Don't worry, somebody else will do all the work. Oh, we'll just have that power over the human subconscious, don't worry. Alright, since we're dead out of topics, let's do final thoughts. My final thought is I have just redone Pagan News Fire Hose. So if you go to pagancenteredpodcast.com/news and you click on the fire hose, it actually looks like a newspaper now, and it's automatically generated every day, and you can actually read it, and it doesn't hurt your brain.
Ooh. My final thought is that there is not enough time in the day when you work to make all your Christmas gifts and make cookies when you're thoroughly convinced that it's just the beginning of December because you've lost a week being sick.
I shouldn't laugh, but...
But you've been there, Scurv.
I lost most of last winter, so I understand.
I hear Scurvy's pussy.
Apparently Dusty wanted to join in on final thoughts. Now you got his.
Okay.
Is it Mew?
It's Per.
Per. Okay.
My final thought is Dee Dee's in the kitchen, and Lilith. Oh, Lilith.
So that'll be Nuria's show in about 10 years. Deity's in the kitchen. It'll be a pagan metaphysical cooking show.
I approve.
That's awesome.
Brought to you by your anti-theist host, Nuria.
And I want to be like the Gordon Ramsay of that. Except I'll just hex people all the time. I'll just throw curses at them.
You're too submissive to be a Gordon Ramsay.
That's right, Dave. You know very little of my many facets.
Still.
She's a facet now? I thought she was more like parfait.
A parfait made of diamonds.
Is that even
Like Jell-O?
No, that's my ex.
Mmm.
There's
Onions.
always room for Jell-O.
Dr. Bow Wow.
That's my final thought.
Sam always leaves room for Jell-O.
Damn Skippy.
Oh yeah, final thoughts. I think I spent this entire episode completely spaced out.
Hey, Scurvy,
Yes.
if you take off the space helmet, you might be able to hear.
Scurvy, do you have a space helmet lying around your place? For some reason, I feel that you would.
Not yet.
Okay.
Great, now you've all encouraged him to get an Apollo-era spacesuit for his house. Thank you, everyone.
Right.
Thank you.
No, he'll MacGyver it out of tinfoil in a fishbowl.
Yeah, he would.
Actually, how would I make a spacesuit?
Tinfoil in a fishbowl?
And a cryogenic unit and some other stuff.
He's got access to. Never mind.
Don't forget a switch. My final thought is...
Is he can't figure out the mute button?
Yeah, I think that's Brandon's final thought, is that oops, I accidentally either pulled my cord out or accidentally hit the mute button.
Does the Featherhead realize
still
we
up
can't
to-
hear him?
Poor Griffin.
Nope. Still on.
How about now?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Now you got your volume.
I have no... For some reason, I must have pinched the cord or something, and it didn't like me. My final thought is that I like the listener feedback episodes and gets us on some random topics, more so than normal, I think. And, yeah, we need more listener feedback. And going with Scurvy and saying more hate mail, but that's almost too much to ask, I feel, anymore. We've tried to getting hate mail, and it's very few and far between, and very rarely coherent. So, listener feedback's a lot better, and
Actually,
we're prone to get it.
the YouTube lady was actually almost kind of good hate mail.
Yeah, that was productive.
I don't know if she was hate mail as much as just jaded against people who didn't take her seriously and answer back.
I thought
Okay,
she was
we're
just
jonesing for a hate mail here, okay? It's a fix, damn it.
Hey, I settle for her sarcasm. I think sarcasm is okay.
Okay.
I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, the sarcasm was good.
We like sarcasm.
We need to get her on here.
No, it is close to the holidays. Maybe she's out doing something.
Yeah, there's not 20 little windows going across the bottom of my screen. We actually have a small turnout tonight.
Oh, and my coin jar is now completely filled officially. I will be starting a new one.
Okay.
Dun 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 dun. Achievement unlocked.
Oh, it just means I gotta go get something to eat. That's a glass. Thinking canned fruit this time, or some of the fruit this time. Maybe some applesauce again.
All right, so that's it for this week's episode of PCP, the Pagan Center Podcast. Join us again next week when we're talking about tarot. Woo! Yes. Tarot 101. For people who are doing tarot instead of just sitting there and listening to it. Exactly. So we'll see you again next week when we talk about tarot. Good night, everyone.
Good night.